Hi, someone asked for a walkthrough of an input validation program. So here's one. Let's take a look. So I want a program to compute the cost of tickets to Cthulhu's World of Goats. So we've got a spreadsheet that looks like this, and here you can see it over here. So there are places to type in number of adult tickets and the number of tickets for children, and whether the children should get a goodie bag or not, yes or no. Click Run, and the cost of that order appears here. Okay, that seems pretty straightforward. Adult tickets are $15 each, and child tickets are $6, all right. Goodie bags are $8 each. Each child gets a goodie bag if purchased in the order. So, okay, if we've got like 3 children, we get 3 goodie bags. All right, now here's the more difficult stuff. Adult and children tickets should be numbers, that is 0 or more. So, okay. This should be a number, and that should be a number. Okay. Goodie bags should be Y or N. Case doesn't matter, nor do extra spaces. So space Y space is valid. So that's that. Okay, that gets filled in. The user clicks Run. All right. Children must be accompanied by at least 1 adult. Aha, this is a wrinkle. So if there is one or more children, there should be 1 or more adults. Okay, I guess that means that you can have, for example, 2 adults and no children, but if you have any children at all, you have to have at least 1 adult. Output error messages in red next to the input fields, makes sense. Show only the error messages that apply. If a value is correct, no error message. Well, that makes sense too. Only show the output when there are no input errors. Okay, so only show this value down here if all of this, if that and that and that are all okay, and there'll be no error messages over in this column here. All right, so let's give it a try. I've made a sub called compute order cost, but of course it really doesn't matter what it is. Now, if we think about this, we've done field validation. In fact, that's where most of the program's going to be. I'm going to start by making some comments to myself. So there's going to be an input part to it, and there's going to be a processing part to it, and then there's going to be an output part to it. All right, that's fine. Now, the input part, I'm going to get the number of children, no, of adults we'll start with. Okay, that's fine. And then validate. All right. And then I'm going to do the same thing for children. So Control C, Control V, and same thing for goodie bags. Now, one thing that we need too, we want to show all of the error messages that apply. So if the value for adults is invalid, we want to show an error message. If the value is children is invalid, we want to show an error message as well. And if both are invalid, we want to show both error messages. That's annoying otherwise. Okay, get the number of adults. Well, the pattern we're going to use here is actually, it's on our website. If you go up here to lists, to patterns, then down here, let's see, find largest and smallest. Maybe was it no accumulator pattern, flag pattern. We're going to be using that actually. This is the pattern we'll use to detect whether there are any errors. And if we want to see what that's like, we can go in here and we can get an example of how that looks. So the pattern list helps you find stuff that you might need. Let's see, keep going. Input from a CSV file, open process file, output to a cell, 1 page left. Ah, okay. So here's the validation better pattern, and here's if we wanted to, some code we could grab and pretty much use. So let's see what it says. It says, wrap a bunch of individual checks inside the flag pattern. Situation, you have several pieces of data to check. You want to show all of the errors at once. Aha! That's us. All right, so let's see. I'm just going to grab this and I'm going to paste it in, and then I'm going to run through it and make sure I know what it does. Copy. All right, I'm going to go back to that in case we need it later. Back here, let's put that in there. All right. So select all these, hit tab. So I select them all, hit tab once, and they all get indented, which is pretty cool. Okay, so first we have this flag variable. It says whether input is okay, and it starts off as yes. Okay, so let's dim that. Oops, not fim. Dim t input is okay as string. All right, so that's our flag. If anything goes wrong, we'll set it to no. And later on, we'll check to see if it's still yes. So we start off by putting it to yes. If anything goes wrong, we turn it to no. And later on, after we've done all the checking, if it's still yes, then everything is fine. If it's not yes, then we got a problem. All right, now, T unchecked user input. This is validate meal cost. Well, for us, that's adults. So let's see. Unchecked user input equals cells 1, 2. This is cells 3, 2. All right. Okay, so we're going to grab what's in this cell and put it into a string variable. I'm just going to reuse this variable actually for every test. Then we're seeing if it's not numeric, because one of the things we want to make sure this is a number. So we say if it's not numeric, okay, then it's not numeric, show an error. All right, this will be 3, 2. If you're thinking I've left something out at the top, you're right. We'll get back to it later. Okay, sorry, adults must be a number. No. Okay, so get the user input, validate it. This line actually belongs up here now. Oh, I've already got validate alloc, so I'll just leave it. Okay, so if it's not numeric, then put an error message in cells 3, 2, which is, oops, not 3, 2, it's 3, 3 in this case. All right. When you cut and paste stuff, it's often, it's pretty common to not change some of the things you need to. So I always run through it again and make sure it looks okay. Now, S meal cost, well, really, I don't have that. I have S number adults or something like that, except it has to be S. Dim that as single. Okay. So grab a value from the cell. If it's not numeric, output an error. Else, if it is numeric, take what the user entered and put it into a numeric variable we're going to use. Because at this point, we know that it is numeric. Do this test. By the way, it's important you don't try this, because some people try this. And that looks like it would be okay, because that's what the user typed, right? But t-check user input is, oops, I didn't declare it, is a string. You can tell because of the T. T. And trying to compare a string against 0 is kind of weird. VBA might freak out about that. All right. Okay. So we know it's numeric, but is it less than 0? Cells, this should be 3, 3, show an error message. If it's not, if it's less than 0, show an error message. Sorry, adults cannot be negative. Lots of adults are negative, but anyway. And then we'll set the flag. All right, so we come down here, we say, we'll assume everything's fine to begin with. We'll get the user input. If it's not numeric, we'll output an error message and say, we'll record that they've seen some sort of problem. If the data is numeric, that's what the else there is, we'll put it into the user input into a numeric variable, check to see if it's should be greater than or equal to 0, because you can. Well, can you have 0 adults? You really can't in this particular application. You have to have at least one, right? Because you can't have zero adults and one child, because that would violate the rule about number of adults. So sorry, adults cannot be 0 or less will be a bit of error message. All right, that looks pretty good. Okay, that seems okay for number of adults. So we have a number of adults. Now let's do the same thing, but for number of children. So I'm going to go down here, control K, get rid of that, control V, do control Y to get rid of that line, CHILDRN, children's, also called kids. All right, this is going to be the same, except we're getting the value, the input value from row 5, column 2. So this is going to be row 5, column 2. So get that value. If it's not numeric, show an error. So this is going to be in 5.3. Sorry, children must be a number. Okay. If the value the user entered is numeric, we put it into a new variable, number children, which I'll just do like this. Okay, that looks pretty good. Control K, and so I can define it up here. Dim number children as single. All right. All right. Children, okay. Number of children equals checked user input. Now this one, I'm going to hit delete number of adults. I don't want that anymore. It should be number of children. So we get the number of children from the cell, check if it's not numeric. If it is numeric, take whatever the user input and put it into another variable. Okay, notice I'm reusing this variable here. And that's fine, because once I get down to here, I'm done with it. I put the variable into number of adults and really don't even need this again, so I'm just reusing it here. It doesn't matter if you want to use a separate variable for that or not, it's just fine. Now let's do the same thing for goodie bags. I'll just code that without using the patterns, because I kind of remember how this pattern works. So we'll say T unchecked user input equals cells. Now let's see what it is over here. It's this one. So it's 8.2. 8.2. Okay. Okay. Now I have to allow for case and extra spaces. So in the pattern with what we've been doing, we've just been doing this equals I'll convert it to lowercase and trim. All right, so we get what the user typed, we take it, we throw away the spaces at the beginning and end, and then we convert to lowercase. Now I want to validate it to make sure it's reasonable. So we'll say, in the formula validation, what's going on here is we get a value and then we test if it's bad, right? That's what we've been testing here. This is a test for badness of the data. This is a test for badness of the data. So we can do the same thing down here. We'll test for badness. So if, oh, by the way, what I'm doing there, I just hit Control-Shift-H. And this shows me all of the things I've put on the clipboard recently. This is a clipboard manager called Ditto, and it will make your life easier. So you put something in clipboard, then you do it again, you think, oh no, I needed that other thing. What was it? Well, don't worry. You can just grab it. So if that doesn't equal Y, and that doesn't equal n, then it's bad. So this is a test for badness right here. So if what the user entered is not equal to y, and it's not equal to n, it must be something else, like dog or goat or some such. I used y here because he used L case here. If I used U case there, I'd use an uppercase Y there. All right, then we'll show the error message, and it's going to and set the error flag, and I'll just copy this, seeing it's pretty close. There we go. All right. Oh, actually, well, that's okay. All right. Okay. Now the error message for this one goes into the row where this data came from, row 8. 8. Sorry. Please enter Y, or, well, I'll just make it uppercase Y or N. And then we set the color, and of course we have to record the fact that there's a mistake. Right? Right! Now, what happens if, so this is, if the input is bad, do this. Otherwise, the input is good. Input OK. I've been putting a space there, haven't I? All right. And I'll say T goodie bags equals yes. Let's do that. All right. Oh, sorry. What am I doing? Equals T unchecked user input. All right. I'll need a variable here. And as string. Okay. All right. Now down to here, I want to stop the program if anything went wrong. There's no point in doing any processing. If there isn't the data Y, it's not going to mean anything at all. So that's what this flag is for. So the flag variable starts off by being set to yes. We say, is the input okay? Let's assume it is. Then if there's any error, that one, or that one, or that one, or that one, or that one, any one of 5 different errors can happen. Now we don't care what error happened. Really doesn't matter. We want to stop the program if anything went wrong. So if T input OK, that was control space that gave me that list, equals no, then I want to stop the program. And that's what AND does. AND and NDIF have nothing to do with each other. They're as related to each other as ham and hamster. That is not at all. Check the validation flag. All right. Bad input. Stop the program. Stop in the name of love before you break my heart. Anyway, so that's that. So if we get down to here, we know that all of the data is fine, right? And we know, so what that means is that we S number of adults, I'll copy that, has good data in it. And S number of children, I'll copy that, has good data in it. And T goodie bags has good data in it. So now we can start doing our stuff. I'll define a variable called cost. I might as well dim that while I'm thinking of it. Actually, I have done something that I should have done differently, but that's okay. I'll talk about it in a minute. The mistake I've made actually is being overconfident. What I should have done is after I put in that code, I should have stopped programming and tested it. First save, because computers suck, they hate you and will destroy your work if they can, but I should have been testing as I go. Let's give this a try. Let's put in that, and this, and that. All right, I'll hit run. Syntax error, see? Oh, that's this thing here, okay. Let's try to see if the program, there it is. Now, the program is actually stopped at this point. There was an error, and VBA is stuck there. If I hit run, it looks like nothing's happening. And that's because it's stuck there waiting for me to decide what to do. I'll just stop that, or I could let it run. Doesn't really matter. Let me try this. Aha! Hey, that looks pretty good. Let's try the number 99. No, 0. Let's try the number -3 kids. And goodie bags are, we'll just say space, 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 Y. Space, run. Adults, I forgot to erase the error messages before. That's one of the things I forgot to do. Okay, but those things look okay. So pretty good so far. One of the things I need to do is if we don't want error messages displayed when they don't apply. This message came from last time when I put a strange string in there. So if I go like this, that's obviously wrong. Hit run, we get an error message. But if I correct that, this error message is still there. It shouldn't be. So that's why we're going to, at the very top, and this is again in our book, online book active text website like super thing, clear output and errors. And that cells. So the first is I want to clear that cell, that cell, that cell, and that cell. Because remember, if there's an error, we don't want the output to show. So this cell is 3 equals nout. All right, and I'll just copy this. All right, and we want that to be 5.3. We want that to be 8.3, and the output is in 13.2. 13.2. All right, save that. I'll run it. And that went away. This didn't work though. Children -3. You can see how it helps to test as you go. I really should have been testing more before. All right, let's check out the kids. S number children less than 0. Oh, look at this. Remember I was saying you can copy code, but then you need to run through it again and make sure you made all the changes you want. This should of course be 5, because we want the error to appear here. And notice what the error is. Adults cannot be 0 or less. That's what I copied, but actually what we really want is children cannot be 0 or less. Let's save that, run it again. Hooray! Hooray! Victory or Sovngarde! Although less than or equal to 0. I forgot to put that in there. Let's run that. Hooray! And if I do this 1 and that is 1, then everything's okay. All right. So let's go down here and do the processing. This is the easiest, well, second easiest part. We have scost. What I did there is I typed SCO, and then I hit Control Space. And seeing there's only one symbol that begins with SCO, it's a variable scost, the editor fills it in for us, equals the number of adults, which is, what was it, I know where it is, equals Control-Shift-H, and there it is, S number of adults, times, now how much was an adult ticket? It was $15 for an adult ticket. I'm just going to move this over a bit so I can remember that. So I don't have to remember that, rather, I can just see it. So plus $6 for the children. So Control-H, number of children, times 6. As you can see, that clipboard manager is a really cool thing. Now, if I've also forgotten a test in validation. Forgot about that. I have to add. Okay, but we'll get to that. Now, let's add to the cost for the goodie bag. So if T goodie bags equals yes. Now remember, we've already figured it equals y, sorry. We've already validated all this stuff. So we only have y or n. That's it. So we only need to test one of those. Then S cost equals S cost plus, and it was $8 per goodie bag. So that's number of children, S number, I won't do it that way. That one times 8. Does that make sense? So we've got, here's the processing. We've got a value for that that's good. We got a value for that that's good. We know that value is valid. So we take the number of adults times 15. Adult tickets are $15 each. Child tickets are $6 each. So that's this one here. And then goodie bags are $8 each. Each child gets a goodie bag if purchased in the order. So we say if goodie bags equals Y, then we increase the cost by number of children times 8, which is the cost of a goodie bag, as you can see down there. All right, that seems perfectly reasonable. Move this back over here, get back over here. All right, and the last thing is to output, actually not the last thing, but because I forgot something earlier, is to output that there. So cells, what is it, 13.2 equals S cost. All right, that's pretty good. So if we run that, 29. So 15 for that plus 6 is 21. And we said we want a goodie bag, so an extra $8 for the kid, and that gives you 29. Hooray! One thing I forgot though is, well, actually, this probably would still work. So if I put 0 in, no, it actually would still work. 0 there, run. Adults cannot be 0 or less because we need at least 1. But what if we do this? Well, it's kind of a nonsensical thing, isn't it? It doesn't make any sense. There we go. If I wanted to add an extra test here, I might go up here. After the validation of the goodie bags, I might put in an extra validation. I might say if the number of children is greater than 0 and the number of adults is less than 1. So this is the situation where, we've got one or more children, right, and no adults. Well, all children have to be accompanied. So I would do an error message like this. Like that sort of thing. Except this would be probably maybe 3.3. All right. Now, this check is, checks like this are very common in business. So these are checks about the input data, whether it's valid. This is a check of a business rule. All right. It's a policy that the company has that says you can't have unaccompanied children. So these are input checks on the input data, and then we add a check for business rule. Notice that this test has to come after the validation of children and adults. Actually, I've just realized another issue with that. But anyway, because it needs both of these available. All right. I actually only want to do this check if the input is okay. What was that variable? Yeah, there it is. Because if the input isn't okay, these will have one or both of those could have invalid data in them. Okay, that looks pretty good, but of course I need to fix the indenting. All right. Okay, so we get down to here. Now, if the input is okay, then we still need to check the business rule. So we do that, and we say, okay, if there's a problem, set it to no, so that the program will stop right there. Okay, so that's it. What I did is I looked at the problem to understand what the goal is. In this case, it's mainly validation type stuff. Then I put in some initial comments to lay out the structure of the code for myself. I went and got a pattern from the pattern catalog on our website. It was actually this one. To get to the pattern catalog, you go lists, patterns, and this is basically all of the lots of different bits of code that are used throughout the course, like the flag pattern, and Hungarian variable naming is there, input from a cell is there, input from a dialog is there, and so on. So I got the one I actually used was this one, better validation. And so I could just grab it from there. Went over here, made adjustments to adjust for the different fields and the different situations, because sometimes, for example, the number of children can be 0, but the number of adults cannot be. So I had to make some changes in, like, number of adults less than or equal to 0 is invalid, whereas number of children only less than 0 is invalid. I should have tested as I went. You notice that there are a number of mistakes, even though I've been doing this for a long time, and even though I actually wrote this book-like thing that you're reading, I still make mistakes. I make them all the time, and so testing is very important. So that's it. Hope that was helpful.